Hey guys, this is Akin from HDD Recovery Services. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm working on this SanDisk SD card, which I believe has some sort of liquid damage. Looking at the connector, it does look a little greenish. Maybe it was in the camera that got soaked in some salt water or something like that, and then over time corrosion kicked in, and that started ruining the interface, traces on the interface, and the device stopped getting recognized. Getting this underneath the microscope and opened up will help us figure out what the next step would be. If we see that there are no problems with the interface or corrosion of any sort, then we definitely going to be doing the chip off recovery on it using either like PC3000 or some other tool that we may have at our disposal right now. I think the PC3000 is currently in use, but if it's not, by the time we have to do this, that's going to be my weapon of choice. So I'll show you what I do in cases like this, and I'll show you how to solve them and how I solve them. And if this is something for you and you need this service, you can also navigate to the link in the description box, guys. It will take you to our website where you can request this service. While you're at it, subscribe to the channel if you're into data recovery, and don't forget to hit like in advance. That would be great for our channel. Thank you guys, and let's get into it. First things first, this is a SanDisk full-size SD card. It came out of a camera. It's not like a GoPro. GoPro cameras are, you know, they're supposed to be waterproof, but it's definitely more often we see corrosion on GoPro cards just because it's an action camera. People love to take it for a swim in the ocean, sea, etc. So if it's not sealed completely, the water gets in. It's usually salt water. Corrosion kicks in very quickly, especially if the card isn't rinsed properly. So you look at this interface. If that doesn't tell you that there's possibly an issue there, I don't know what will. So for something like that, I have a knife like here. In the microscope, you can see that the memory card is basically two pieces of plastic glued together, and at the edge here we can slide our blade in and start separating it, so like that, and split apart. Once you get the case opened up, without even looking at the connections yet, let's have a look at where the card was sitting. So what happens in these types of events where salt water interacts with the card? Salt water gets trapped into this cavity here and sits there. Alright, this is all sign of corrosion. If we pay attention to what our card looks like, we see it's quite a mess. Alright, we got a lot of corrosion going on here, lots of corrosion, and I wouldn't be surprised that some of these test points had rotten away to a point where they don't link. Now, they are there not only to make point A to point B contact. Sometimes these test points that are in the middle, they'll be middlemen. They will be in between of the two, and if they are in between of the two and they rotten away, then they break the connection between point A and point C, because that point B is not connecting either C or A together. So recommended thing here would be to basically strip it down first, see what the circuit is like, and go from there. But I can tell for sure at this point that interface didn't corrode all the way through. It's not likely for SD card interface to corrode to a point where it's just like totally wrecked, but I have a good feeling that something around here corroded enough to break, and there's no more contact as a result. I'm gonna get a piece of paper, lay that down right here. I'm gonna get some double-sided tape to secure the card in the center. In my microscope view, I'll lay the card right on it like that, and I have this beautiful fiberglass scratch pen that I'll use to scrape away the surface. Once this surface is scraped, the circuit will be all visible to us and we'll know what steps to take. So let's go and get this party started. So we're just going to lightly brush it up and down like that. When the card has corrosion, you probably want to take off all of the mask that is there, because you want to see the entire picture. So look at this here, guys. What do we see? Remember I was saying that these dots here, they don't always work as point A to point B connection. This is a point A to point B connection. Point A, point B. We see they're not buzzing because that line right there, that's where the salt started to interact with copper and it rotted all out so that it completely separated. You see, if we were holding them together, we would get a beep. But as soon as we go onto the pad, which it was part of before, we're not getting any beep. This is again point A to point B connection, but it's attached. There's still a fine line of joint in there that makes it whole. So this one is broken, but it's not critical. Why is it not critical? Let me explain. Because this test pad here is just so that we can access the data bus line here, which leads to one of the data bus signals. If we needed to communicate with a NAND protocol directly, we would definitely want this pad to be connected, because then we can use a quick pressure adapter to make this connection for us on the flight. We wouldn't have to wire it. But if we were gonna wire it, we could just use this via hole right there, run the wire directly to it, and not even worry about this pad. So that's point A to point B. And we're gonna just go ahead and test them all. Good, good, good. This is good, and this is good. So here's where it gets interesting. Point A to point B. Now this is what I call point A to point C connection. Point A to point C connection is a little bit different. We have a via here, we have a pad here, and then we got another via here. So what we want to make sure is that we get a connection all across the rail. The entire thing is linked. If we go and connect to our pad here and the via, it's connected, but this is obviously isn't, because we got a break right there. So now what happens is, wherever this cavity goes down to a different layer isn't connecting with this cavity that goes down to a different layer. So whatever this connection was supposed to be establishing is no longer establishing in that place. So that's critical. That's super critical to take care of that, because that actually might be the only thing that's broken. Well, not really, I see some more, but these are the types of things that need to be taken care of the most. For this card, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that chip off is not gonna be needed in this case. What we need to restore all of the point A to point C connection. I'm not gonna worry about point A to point B, because they don't really do much for us, unless we needed to use a quick adapter to make connection with the USB or with the NAND protocol right away. See, there's a little bit of reaction here, but I wouldn't really worry about it that too much. So we may have problems here, and we do. You see how badly it rotted away there? So this is supposed to connect like that. Right here it doesn't. So that's the first thing to check. We're gonna definitely need to link it if we want this whole thing to work. Our ground is good. Our clock is good. Our power is good. Or this is the power. Yeah, that's the power. This is the ground. This is good. This is good. And this is good. So we only have one pad on the interface that needs a little correction, and that one is right there. We're gonna run like a tiny jumper from here to here, no biggie. But what I want to fix is these connections here. So you see this pad connects to 4 via holes that are now split apart, and that's our ground. The ground goes here, the ground goes here, the ground goes here, and it's all disconnected. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run like a cross wire from here to there, cross wire from here to there, and we're gonna link it all together. So you get the idea. Everything that's basically trashed out right now, from the connection standpoint, will need to be redone. We can make it clean enough and drop it back into the card and slide it into a card reader. Are we gonna do it that way? Probably not. I'm gonna use one of my card extensions to just wire the interface directly, and we will make a connection that way. It's just going to be more open for me, less chances of, you know, getting these wires broken off, and everything will be up and open, and you will be able to see the entire fixed product. Because this is all going to be covered in flux in a second, I want to take my time, take a picture of this, send it to me, and I'm just going to go over all of the critical connections to make sure I mark them in paint to know what needs connections, what doesn't. That way we're not gonna have something missing, and we'll cover all the bases. On this picture we will have to draw some things. I'm gonna connect this one first. That's our first connection. The next one is going to be this longer one right here, right? So we got this, we need to connect it to this trace, and we're gonna just jump it like that. Then obviously we're gonna link this with the Mercedes-Benz logo like that. We have connection here but not here, so we're gonna link it. This one here definitely gonna need to be connected. What about the next one? Yeah, the next one looks trashed too. Alright, so we got quite a bit to repair already, right? Next in line is this guy here. I think it's disconnected. Yep. There's our ground pad, and we have connection on all of these outlets. This one, single point, single point, single point. The rest of them are all single point, and we're going to link this one obviously. So we have our SD protocol right here, and we have our SD protocol right here. But if you look at it, we have it mirrored right now. So we got a slant nose here, but also a slant nose here. And all of these connected straight down. So our connections here are gonna probably go in this crisscross type of pattern. So I'm gonna worry about the interface later, because those are just straight lines we're gonna run. Let's fix all the little things first, because that's what's gonna make this device functional for us again. The critical step here is adding flux. Without flux, this is not going to happen. We don't want to dump a lot of it, because if it gets cloudy, it will be harder to see. On top here, actually, we can put quite a bit. We don't care about that. So the wire I'm going to use for work is 46 gauge, super thin, but it's still sturdy enough not to clip or cut when you hold it with tweezers. So that's my preference here. Alright, first things first, we're going to need to like pre-tin our connections. That one's good and connected. So we need to link up this part. I think that's it. I think that's all we need to link. You see the wire matches the trace pretty well. That's the idea here.
Let's just double check this thing and compare it to the list we've made. Good. 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 That works. That works. That works. This is connected. These are connected. And our last piece, we got a connection everywhere. All right, that's it for soldering. I think, I mean, maybe it didn't come out as beautiful as I hoped it would, but I think we're gonna be fine. I think it will work, and the end result is gonna speak for itself. One thing we gotta make sure before we plug this in is that we don't have our power plane sitting on the ground, because that would be not good. So we don't have a constant beep, so we're good to go. Now it's just you know, we need to get something to plug this into. We're gonna plug this into a Deep Spark USB stabilizer right now. Hook this up like that. When we bring up the screen, power up the unit, we get 30 gigs recognized. Project mounts. We're going into brand new RStudio screen. We should get SanDisk card getting recognized somewhere here. So it gets recognized as a SD Transcend. That's the brand of the adapter. But if we go into the partition, we can see it's displaying FAT32. And if we go into the hex view and have the sector map running side by side, as I scroll down, you guys can see that, you know, we're navigating the device we just worked on. So if I was to explore it, we see the DCIM folder and a bunch of other stuff here right away. If we mark it, the unit, and yeah, it does show quite a bit of extras. Oh, because we got so it's displaying, currently it's showing that the device has 118 gigs of data on this 32 gig unit, which is not possible. But looking at these thumbnails here, a lot of them are crossed out. That's the way that RStudio indicates a file that's been deleted. So the record for the file still exists, but it's been deleted, and it has probably been written over on top of later. But because the properties metadata for the file still exist on in some bit form on this device, it marks it from the file system. So if we were to go ahead and deselect all of the empty folders and only keep existing files, exclude the deleted ones, our selection drops down to 27 gigs, which is what it should be on a 32 gigabyte device that is full. So 27.18 gigs of content. If we were to open a file for a preview, we can see that the file opens up perfectly fine, no issues, the device works, the data is saved. This is a perfect example of saltwater damage done to SD card. This is a monolithic unit, so that's the way it would react. If this was a different type of design of the card, the corrosion would probably affect other components. If it was a surface mount, and maybe recovering that would be hard to say. It would be simpler or more difficult. It really just depends on the situation. But the key thing is to make sure that you go over all of the details, because this case, for example, if it ended up at the shop that doesn't know much about what salt water can do to the device, and they were just, and let's say they have all of the data recovery tools like I do for chip-off recovery, they would clean up the unit, plug it in, or wire it directly to adapter, and then they would discover that there is no ID coming up, and the ID would not come up because those test points that you would normally route the signals to were not linking with what is on the inside, and that is a critical step, guys. So
That's exactly what makes or breaks a case like this. And right at the start, when I saw that interface having a little bit of copper corrosion signs on it, and especially where this card came from, it came from Puerto Rico. This was just like connecting the dots. Salt water nearby, interface rotten. You got some corrosion situation going on. So if you guys found yourself in a similar situation where your data is trapped on the card that you don't want to lose the content from, check the link in the description. We'll definitely be able to help you out. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you liked the presentation, hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys all in the next episode.